sustainability possible in a market economy? Now, this is a contemporary and very important issue to us today. Issues of ethics and sustainability have moved to the top of the agenda in both public and private lives. And since the 1980s, businesses have embraced the corporate social responsibility banner, but recent concerns over ethical practices, fueled perhaps by the banking crisis and MPs' allowances, for example, might have led many to question how deeply these ideas have actually penetrated into organisations.
See that in Barclays as well. So we in Barclays also believe it's possible to have a client-focused business that I think is socially useful bank, which I think you probably like to hear, given Lord Turner's comments a few years ago, that has delivery for long-term returns to shareholders, to the wider stakeholders on a very, very long-term basis. I'll quote, if I may, our CEO on Radio 4 recently, where he did say how important ethical leadership is. And then from his perspective, leaders of organizations need to demonstrate ability to take an organization from where it is today into the long-term future.
And I'm not knocking the intent of Barclays or anyone else, but it's too early in the day for anyone, frankly, who works for the bank or indeed as a member of the House of Lords to claim that it's present, because I haven't seen any evidence of it. You know, Barclays, like many of the high street banks, have an absolutely appalling, shocking customer service record. You can't get out of that. The guy who's the chief executive used to be in charge of selling the stuff. So, of course he's going to say that stuff on Radio 4, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that everything in the garden is rosy, because it isn't. It's packed full of weeds, and I'm afraid Barclays is one of those weeds. And so you've got a long way to go before you convince people that ethical leadership. You might start by doing things like responding to the idea of moral hazard, which, frankly, all the banks have managed to escape with an alacrity that Bear Grylls would be fitted.
That there are a number of very large concerns, very large businesses, industries in the UK and indeed globally who are actually providing sustainability leadership, and at the moment my analysis is that they are way ahead of government. There are people who are pioneering, they are horizon scanning, they are providing vision, and they are doing it because they are concerned about resource scarcity and risk to their businesses. So there's an area of self-interest in this. And of course they want larger profits out of the system, but they want to do it with fewer resources. And actually that is a big sustainability challenge. Now, as I say, I'm not with you.
I suppose my first thought is that it all depends what you mean by leadership. But then that's what academics do, you know. They have first thoughts which play havoc with the question. And I don't think we should be thinking about leadership just in terms of people who happen to be in so-called leadership positions. I think we should be thinking about everybody, certainly everybody in this room, and everybody who has a chance to influence anybody else. That's why educational institutions are so important, by helping people understand more about the issues that are clearly existential, and the dangerous futures that we all face.
On that, NUS, the National Union Students, the last 5 years has done surveys on do students find sustainability an issue that should be a key theme looking forward, and over 60% of those students for the last 5 years have said yes, it's something that we should be doing more about as a generation. But having the relative power, if they wish to choose it, why should they choose it at the moment? Because everything that we've been told as a generation is that we don't actually have much of a say in a lot of these things. We have things kind of dictated to us from relative leaders who tell us to be ethical but don't do it in their own everyday practices. So why should we necessarily kind of partake in actually being involved in, whether it's voting, whether it's buying from a certain brand, whether it's engaging in certain markets? Because we're not being dictated to by people that are actually doing what they say. And I think that's the key issue from kind of, as a student president, something that I should actually bring up to the table, because it gets sidewashed a lot and students are told that we don't actually have much of a say. And this generation doesn't. When we should be at the forefront of a lot of these conversations.
The definition of sustainability is that it can be strong or weak. So you can be sort of have three pillars of sustainability, like economic growth, social justice, and environmental protection. And you can have a really weak sustainability system where you care more about economic growth and profit than you do about the, in my opinion, much more important aspects of sustainability, which are environmental protection and social justice, which actually go hand in hand. Particularly when you're talking about like the global south, for example, with relation to climate change. So protecting our environment would be doing social justice for people now in other parts of the world and for future generations. So we need to pioneer a model of sustainability that, the word I think is kind of dodgy because I think it gets co-opted by corporations for CSR and for what we call greenwashing, which is like saying, hey, look at this cool thing we're doing. Like Coke recently have made a video saying, hey, everyone reuse your Coke bottles, make them into like, water guns and whatever, which is great, but stop abusing your workers in Latin America. So,
I guess sustainability is all about doing more for less, and that coincidentally is sometimes congruent with capitalism's aim, or indeed the aims of the good old National Health Service. We're all under a huge pressure to do more for less. I was trying to remember what this notion's called. It's called cost improvement notions or something, cost improvement programs. So we're under a lot of pressure to dream these up. So I'd like to say that leadership is never free, and leadership is always kowtowing to the next leader up, or the owners, or the shareholders. And I guess the answer to the question is yes, under the limited circumstances of the present, where there is so many restrictions, both in the commercial world. They say there's a boom at the moment in London, and it's true enough, but it's not really spread out. We're all under huge pressure to do more for less. So at the moment, leadership within a sort of free enterprise economy, that wasn't the phrase you used, was it? But leadership in that setting, I think it can be congruent with pursuit of sustainability, temporarily, because of our present circumstances.